Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Well, guys, today is it. It's 333 is the energy today. Numerologically speaking, third month, 30th day, 3 plus 0 is 3, and 2019 adds up to 12, which adds up to 3. So 2 plus 1 plus 9, and then you add those numbers, 1 plus 2, and you get 3. Basically, today is a 333 day, and the numbers since yesterday for me have been coming in as not only the 333, but also 33 and 11 and 13. So 11 and 11 and 13. Those are the numerological number messages that I've been getting today. So I guess I'm gonna start on Earth Changes news. As you are aware, we had Schumann resonance. I'm looking for this now. We had Schumann resonance 2 days ago was 33. 1 day ago, yesterday, was 44. And well, today it got up to 55 for a while. And then went back down to 25, and then it went back down to 15, and then the rest of the day was calm in the late afternoon, early evening, UTC time. So we're getting these double digits again, and they're magical numbers, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5. And then today, personally, I've gotten 11 and 11 quite a bit. And I've gotten, in fact, I started this at 8:11. Oh my God, there's another 11. So, and then all the stuff I have to talk to you about today, guys, all the Earth Changes stuff, there's a lot of 3s again and 11s. So pretty crazy. It's trippy when it all lines up like that. I don't know. It's like, have you ever walked into a classroom and everybody has like pink on or blue? That's so freaky. I mean, just like last week, I forgot to mention it. My son and I left the house and I was wearing bright red lipstick, which I very rarely wear, hardly ever. And I think I had tan and white on and then red. And then I looked at my son and he was wearing red and white. And we were just like looking around going, this is really weird. Everybody walking up and down the street, people riding around in cars, people on motorcycles and bicycles. For like the whole day, everyone had tan, red, and white on. I'm like, what the hell is happening? It's like we're a hive mind and don't even know. We're like serving a massive queen bee we don't even know exists. I don't know what the hell it means, but it's so freaky when that happens. Like, start paying attention to color. Like, know what you're wearing, what you feel. Like, feel a normal color. Like, okay, yeah, go in your closet. Today's a purple day or a black day or a blue day, whatever the color is. And then go outside and see if everyone else is the same as you. I don't know what that phenomenon is, but it's weird. In fact, we're going to talk tomorrow about the 100th monkey effect. And I think I'm going to do a reading from the book, but I'm going to do a little bit more research because the actual research that the book came from is a little bit different from, like, the reality is a little bit different from the book. And the book was very popular. I think Ken Keyes was the one who wrote it in the 60s. So tomorrow, that's going to be the topic. I'm still hoping that Monday will be Jean Brannon. We did reschedule for tomorrow. We're going to do the interview tomorrow. I will air it on Monday. If indeed it happens, fingers crossed, I hope to God, it happens, because she seems like an incredibly interesting woman. And I'm thinking possibly Tuesday, I'm going to tell you guys how to analyze your dreams. Too many of you have contacted me recently in the past week saying, guess what? I've been having really crappy nightmares. When I'm able to sleep, it's a nightmare. I'm waking up from horrible emotional feelings. in conjunction with a nightmare. And you know what? Me too. I had a really weird nightmare the other day. I had a dream that I was in a dorm, and while I was asleep, I took my shirt off. And so I'm like laying in the dorm full of men, and I was the only woman, and I was completely topless, which is like such an insane dream, right? And I woke up going, well, it has to do with exposing myself emotionally or something, you know, but it was a venting dream. It's like something I would do. It's like sleepwalking, but sleep undressing, you know. And in my dream, it was like a few years from now, and I was traveling by myself, and I was in a dorm, and I just disrobed, and which is insane because like I'm always wearing a lot of clothes and I'm in a dorm, because I don't ever want that scenario to happen. I've been known to do weird things in my sleep. So if you don't believe me, go back and listen to every single episode, because I know there's at least one episode I told you guys an earful. I'm not going to repeat what I said back then. I don't even remember what episode it was, to be honest. Anyway, let's get through some of this Earth news. In 2011, there was a 9.11 earthquake in Fukushima, Japan. And the earthquake was so bad that it affected 6 nuclear radiation plants, you know, for nuclear energy. And they had a meltdown in 6 different plants, which created a mass exodus of 160,000 people. They had to leave their home and could never return. Not in their lifetime. Not in their great-great-grandchildren's lifetime can they return. That's how bad this was. In fact, this was the world's worst nuclear disaster in the history of humans, as far as we know. I mean, who the heck knows what happened before the Bhagavad Gita, right? I mean, that seems like that might have been a nuclear accident in India, but we don't really know. Anyway, they tested water off the coast of St. Lawrence Island in the North Bering Sea, up in the Bering Strait, and it's more closer to Siberia than to Alaska. But a group of scientists came from Fairbanks, Alaska, and they tested the water. And this is the farthest north point, the northernmost point of the Bering Sea, and they found cesium-137 in the water still. Remember, I just said it happened like 8 years ago. So, freaking weird, right? So, yeah, they did in the southernmost part of the Bering Sea, they tested tissue samples from the sea lions there, and they did discover there are radionuclides in the muscle tissue of the sea lions. So, yeah, it's affecting all sea life off the coast of Siberia. The last massive disaster of a nuclear type happened 25 years before in Chernobyl, which had up until that time been the worst nuclear accident. But what's so irritating is that here we go again, but this time in the ocean. So, I don't know. Happened from Japan, so I half expect that Gamora is going to rise from the sea someday and, well, kill us all if we're not in the 5th dimension. there's a reason for you wanting to meditate and move right on up, moving your energy up. Oh, God. So, also 3 weeks ago, what happened in Kentucky disturbs me as well. Another thing that potentially affects animals, you know, and you know me, I love animals, animal trainer from heaven. I just did a show on animal totems. So this is just so upsetting. There was a sinkhole that opened up in an unused portion of the Kentucky Zoo. Thank God no animals were affected. They maybe emotionally, but no one really thinks about that. The animals that know about it are probably upset. You know, they probably all felt it. They probably all heard it. But this massive, massive sinkhole opened up immediately following 6 earthquakes that took place across the border in Tennessee. Now, the first 2 or 3 quakes were in the 2.0 range, and then one struck in the 3.3 range. 33 miles north of Knoxville, Tennessee. And they think that was the one that precipitated the whole event of a massive sinkhole just frickin' opening up 3 weeks ago. Also, 3 weeks ago, there was snow in Malibu. They got a quote-unquote light dusting. Excuse me, that doesn't happen in California. Not only does it never rain in Southern California, but man, when it rains, it pours. It just never, ever snows. People, I think we're going into an ice age or a mini ice age. I really feel it coming. I mean, just like last week, did I not report that our glaciers have grown back? I mean, like a starfish arm, the glaciers grew back. So now we're going through this. Right after the light dusting of snow in Malibu. Oh, and by the way, we had a light dusting of snow today in Ecuador. Today, this morning, I woke up 10:30 in the morning, yo. There was snow. It was snowing outside my window. Oh my God. It snows 45 minutes from here, farther up into the Andes Mountains. But down here in Cuenca, no. We'll get freezing rain for 10 minutes, but snow? What the heck is the world coming to? We're not gonna die by fire, baby. I think it's gonna be ice. Okay, I don't think we're gonna die at all. Honestly, I think we're just gonna raise up into the fifth dimension before all this crap happens. Just keep meditating. Just keep moving. Remember Dory from Finding Nemo. Oh, I love Ellen so much, and she did such a good job on that character acting part. Okay, so not only was there a light dusting of snow in Malibu, California, immediately following, like within 24 hours after that, tell me if this isn't freaky, there was lightning. 2,200 strikes of lightning happened between Santa Barbara and Los Angeles in a less than 24-hour period in one night. 2,200 strikes of lightning. Okay, I grew up in California. We don't have lightning there except in like August, around the time of my birthday when the rains start in the summertime. It just turned spring like a week ago. Like, I don't know. The weather is weird. Things are weird. We just got to accept it, I guess. We just got to accept it. Here, I woke up, not only did we have snow first thing in the morning, but all of the mountains were covered in this rolling fog. It was like that movie, The Fog, and it was just like everything was foggy. I felt like I was living inside literally the cloud forest, which is not that far from here, actually. The cloud forest is really fun, really lovely. Really dangerous to drive through because the roads are super windy, but it's, oh God, the Cajas National Forest is beautiful here in the Andes Mountains, and it was so mystical and magical. And then the snow, and then we had this rain, but the rain was like mist, and it was pouring down mist, and then it came a little heavier with the fog still. It was a magical, crazy weather day. You don't see days like that here in Ecuador, not in Cuenca, not very often, not the way it happened today. There just feels like there's an energetic shift, and I felt like the water is cleansing the planet. We're cleansing all of our emotions. Everything is being cleansed. In California 3 weeks ago, it was a cleansing by fire right after a cleansing by snow. I don't know. Kentucky, I don't know, honey. I can't. If you're in Kentucky, there's nothing I can tell you. I don't think a massive sinkhole is a cleansing. I just think it's kind of scary. And also in the past, few days, there have been massive booms coming from underneath the ground in California and Nevada, and I think Arizona was the other place I heard. Maybe it's just Arizona and California. Again, with the massive booms, and no one knows what they are. No one knows where they're coming from. They're just these loud booms, and then no explanation, and no one can tell you anything. What is it? I don't know. I can't tell you. Ask the scientist. Oh, he can't tell you either. Sorry. So sorry. I was going to my sarcastic bubble. The bubble, the character from Absolutely Fabulous from like 15, 20 years ago. She would like forget to give a super important message to her boss. And she'd go, oh, so sorry. She was like never sorry. It was like, she was so cheeky. But it's like, no one can explain this stuff. We have no explanation. Sorry, folks. It's just happening. All this crazy stuff is happening, but oh yeah, no, we don't have a reason. Never a reason for any of it, is there? Oh God, I don't know. So some crazy news, some good news, some just beautiful news. I don't know. I don't know what to do other than just pray. I lit candles last night for 4 hours. My son and I just sat here and prayed for the earth for 4 hours, focused on loving the planet. That's all we can do. Today was a day of 1 hour without electricity. Did you do it? Make up for it tomorrow if you forgot. I didn't know, but I did a 4-hour thing yesterday where all of our electronic devices were off. All of our lights were off. We sat with candles for 4 hours up until about 2 in the morning, which I apologize because I did not get to my show. I didn't record it until 3:33 a.m., but there was a reason for it, probably because of the 333. 11 and 13 threes, and yeah, it's just what's been happening. A lot of 11s, a lot of threes. That's the energy. That's the energy right now. At least coming from my end. Maybe only it's in my spiritual group, my soul group. Paul Butler's soul group is 375. It's his energy. 3 and 7 and 7 and 3, and that's his thing. Other people are getting 14s and 4s, and that's the energy for other people. So it's weird. I don't know. I don't know if it goes in soul groups. I don't know how the magic numbers work, but it's weird that they keep coming up, right? Keep coming up. And speaking of coming up, what we have for tonight's topic, yay, it's Saturday. You know what that means, folks. It's a Reverend Marion Jones story night. This story is bound to tickle your toes and please you. It is not a Dory story, surprisingly enough. This comes from Grandma Marion's later years and something that directly happened to me in her home. I'm not going to say what. You got to wait till after these messages. Hey, you. Have you ever thought about having your own podcast like me? Was it even a New Year's resolution? For me, it sure was. But as I've been looking into this for months, I was daunted. There's so many questions I had. When I was trying to get this off the ground, I was wondering, how do I record the episode? How do I get it across all the platforms? How do I get my podcast on Apple Podcasts when I don't even have an iPhone? How do I get it onto Spotify and all the other places? How do I get people to listen? And how do I make money from my podcast? How do I edit it? Oh my God, I had all these questions and I was so confused until I discovered the simple answer is Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free, and it is ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. All you need to do is record it. You don't have to go out and look for people to advertise on your show. They help you. So basically what I like about podcasting is I don't have to have a video of myself. You don't know if my hair is dirty or if I'm still in my pajamas or even if I'm wearing makeup. Haha. And it's so easy. I could do this from the comfort of my own home in my living room using this amazing app right from my cell phone. So easy, right? So if you've always wanted to start your own podcast and make money, by the way, doing it, please go to anchor.fm/start. That is anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters that are already using Anchor. Again, that's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast, and I can't wait to favorite you. Woohoo! Let's be broadcast podcast buddies. I'll see you there. All right, guys. So tonight's topic is haunted art. I'm not talking statues. I'm talking just art, like paintings. But it's very, very narrow, the topic. So narrow, in fact, that there's only one other story that I was able to find on the internet exactly like the story I'm about to tell you that happened to me and Grandma Marion in Grandma Marion's house. So I'm not going to get into that right away. Got to build the suspense somehow. The suspense. So I looked up haunted art and I found some really weird and gruesome things. Apparently there was a guy who was in anguish, and instead of, being a normal human and going to a doctor about it, he, or taking drugs like most people, most self-respecting artists, they turn to drugs. Come on. Duh. But no. This guy decided to paint a horrible, disgustingly accurate portrait of his emotion, his raw emotion. And for the color red, he used his own blood. And then right after he killed himself, and they found his dead body next to the painting. And after the funeral, the people who had the painting got rid of it because it was haunted, and these other people found it in the back of like a hotel or something, an abandoned hotel. They're like, oh, this is a weird piece of art, but I mean, it's really good. He's a good artist. So they didn't know what was going on with it, but they took it home and suddenly they were haunted, and all this weird stuff started happening to the painting. It might move or fall over, or people that looked at it would suddenly get very, very sick. And I just feel like, I don't know, if you find a painting next to a dead body, the number one thing you should do is burn the painting and then haul the body off, okay? Because you don't want that thing haunting you. So he had a negative emotion. You know what? Well, I'm sorry. Everyone has negative emotions sometimes. I don't mean to be, a little irritated by this, but it's like if your intention is to kill yourself and then inhabit a painting and ruin people's lives and make them miserable for as long as that painting exists, sorry, this world doesn't get to keep your painting. It's time to burn it. Burn it. I mean, seriously, after he gets to the other side, do you think he's going to go to heaven? He's probably going to go to a self-made hell. Sorry. So sorry. It's another bubble moment. Sorry. You have bigger fish to fry. Time to burn your damn painting. But anyway, this painting made many, many, many people sick. I found one or two pretty similar stories. And then I found a really weird one about a little girl who was 4 years old, and she stood for an artist to have her portrait done, and she was so cute. Oh my God, so adorable. She had like a little white dress, a little pink ribbon, just totally cliche. but this was done for a couple's 4-year-old daughter in Texas. And right after she had this portrait done of her, she tripped and fell down the stairs and died. And now this painting is real. It hangs in a hotel in somewhere in Texas. And if you go to see this painting, you'll hear a little girl giggling when you go near the painting. She's a playful spirit, and she's just full of love and light, and she just has never been released to heaven. So she haunts this painting of herself. So that's just a run-of-the-mill ghost story, you know. It's sweet and weird, and how come they haven't got an exorcist in there to send her spirit to heaven, because she's doing no one any favors by hanging out in the earthly plane. You know, but me as a psychic medium, and I'm a world walker. I walk between the worlds, and I'm helping dead left and right. Helped 4 dead people last night. They weren't going to heaven. Shh. When you get a spirit that you know for sure is not going to the good place, probably the best thing to do is just tell them, get on this blue platform. Archangel Michael, take them to where they belong. That's what I did last night. I was like, I didn't want to say, because I'm not God. I can't judge. I don't judge anybody. I can't send them to the other place. I don't know what place they're going. Usually when you go to hell, it's a hell of your own making. So I don't know. Anyway, another painting that I saw was very creepy. It was a little boy. He looked pretty normal. He's sitting next to what looked like a very disturbed, haunted doll. But what's even more disturbing in the painting, there's a bunch of hands, severed hands, pointing to the person looking at the little boy. So from inside a window, pointing outward, and the little boy is standing outside with this doll. It's a really creepy picture. And there's 3 or 4 other pictures that were really creepy, and people were reporting that the paintings itself would move or things would be different. The painting of the little boy with the doll, there were reports that late at night, the little boy and the doll would be heard arguing, and sometimes the little boy would go out of the painting entirely and he just didn't exist. And at 3 a.m, there's no little boy in the painting. 6 a.m, he's back. He's back. Creepy, right? What the hell? So that's not what we're going to talk about tonight, because not all hauntings are negative or weird or bad or ghoulish. These were really like the only things I could, and the only thing that came close to this was magical art. And then I was starting to think about the portrait of Dorian Gray. Although now when I look, it says the picture of Dorian Gray. So now I'm thinking, Mandela effect, you've got me again. It was always a portrait of Dorian Gray. And the movie's called The Picture. So I don't know. Anyway, in the movie, it's just about a man who, every time he has anything negative or anytime he gets a wrinkle or a gray hair, he goes behind closed doors and he does something, some kind of ritual, magic spell. Anyway, he gives all of his negativity and all of his agedness to the painting. So the painting started off when he started off, in his 20s. And then as he grew older, the painting showed the age while he did not. He remained the same. It's an amazing movie, so go watch it if you dare. It's a horror movie from the 50s, so not terribly scary, but it's a little creepy. It's creepy enough. I mean, maybe don't watch it alone. Maybe cuddle with your sweetheart. If you don't have a sweetheart, cuddle with your dog or your cat. Something. Watch it with a friend. Don't watch it alone, but it's a good movie. It's a really good movie. So that's more along the lines of magical art, and I started looking into magical art to see if it's the same, and it apparently is not the same. And I'm gonna maybe do a show on magical art in the future and how you can incorporate magic into a lovely living piece of art that is like an enchanted spell that is 100% in your house at all times, where you focus on it just by looking at it. You know, after you put 3 or 4 hours into a piece of art and then you have it there, it kind of takes on a life of its own. So I'm not saying do a Dorian Gray thing, although, well, see the movie before you decide to do that. Trust me on this one. See the movie first or read the book. The book is excellent too. I read it when I was in college. I loved it. So, speaking of, earlier I mentioned the word Dory, the name Dory in Finding Nemo, now Dorian Gray, and now Dory's Stories. So Dory is another name right now that we are apparently going through a cycle of Dory. I don't know. Don't know what it means. We'll figure it out in time. But on YouTube, I found a channel today called Dory's Stories. She has paranormal and supernatural stories, things that are real true stories that happen to her in her life, or to her friends, or to people she knows. Well, Dory, for her day job, is an artist. She runs a studio, her own, and she does her own art, and it's usually very abstract and surreal. And she had an example of her normal art in the one that I looked at. And it was really good, actually. I was like, damn, Dory, you're good. Anyway, in Dory's story, she had been brought a portrait of a cat. And this woman said that her cat had been lost, and it looked like a tortoiseshell cat or maybe a calico cat. And she said that she would definitely, she would commission her to please paint my cat. And she's like, yeah, sure, of course I'll do that for you. And she thought she'd paint the cat and then that'd be the end of it. And the cat was really weird looking. It was like its lower part of its face was kind of bulging out like a human's would, and its eyes had a weird shape, more like a human's than a cat's. And they were more centered towards the center of the face like a human. And the cat looked really weird to begin with, right? So it can only get weirder, this story. But she's like, okay, sure, I'll take a stab at it. I mean, not really, not that, maybe wrong word, sorry about that. Anyway, but she's like, yeah, no, I'll do it, I'll paint your cat. So she did a portrait of the cat taken from a photograph, and she gave it to the lady, and she was so pleased with it. And then she called like a week later saying, the weirdest thing is I heard my cat meowing when I went in the room with the painting. Then about a month later, she got another call saying the cat jumped on the bed. The ghost of the cat jumped on the bed in the room where there was a painting. So she went to lay down on the bed in that room and looked at the painting, and then the cat jumped on the bed next to her. And she thought she felt it or heard it purring, even though it wasn't there. It was there, but only in spirit. So she thought, well, this is really strange. And she thought, well, it's bound to happen. Your cat's inhabiting the painting somehow. Weird story, right? I bet you've never heard anything like this. This is so bizarre. Well, she thought that was like the last she had heard of this woman. Oh, but no. Ooh, another month went by. And the woman was frantic. She's like, you're not going to believe what happened. You're not going to believe what happened. Oh, wow, you're not going to believe what happened. So what happened was she had hired some people to work on her house. A couple men were there, and one of the men was upstairs, I don't know, working, in one of the rooms. I don't even know what the construction was about. Not in that room, but the man went in the room with the painting of the cat, and he was up there for about 10 or 15 minutes when all of a sudden he started screaming and yelling and freaking out and running down the hallway, down the stairs as fast as he could, where he got to the dining room table, and he said, I'm sorry, I'm never going to steal from anybody ever again. And he started pulling out watches and jewelry and expensive items he was planning to steal from this lady. And she's like, what happened? I mean, thank you for not stealing my stuff. Hey, but what happened? Why are you so scared? And he's like, that demon devil cat portrait you have up there, it hissed and it growled at me and it scratched my arm. And he was just like freaking out, and he like unloaded his pockets and showed her he was taking nothing. And he said, I will never steal as long as I live. I will never ever steal again. And he took off running out of the house, and like within a couple hours, she tried to call him, and the guy that he was working with tried to call him to ask him more about what happened. He had already abandoned his phone number, and I think he moved. Like, they couldn't find him ever again. Oh, that's such a cool story. But so this cat from beyond the grave inhabited the painting and then protected her and everyone else he might have stolen from in the future. So cool. Good for you, cat. So that's on Dory's stories, which I immediately, of course, I subscribed to her immediately because she's hilarious. And she said all of her stories are paranormal and supernatural and crazy like mine. Like, so I love stories like this. So I just had to share that one. So that leads me into my Reverend Marion Jones story. For those of you who are new to the show, every Saturday for the past 2 months, I have done an episode on Reverend Marion Jones. I refer to her as Grandma Marion. She asked me to call her Grandma Marion. She died when she was about 86 or 87 years old. God rest her soul. And that was, now about 15 years ago. Something like that, 15 or 16 years ago. And Grandma Marion was what I consider to be a true saint, if not a downright spiritual master. She probably a saint, but I don't know. You never know with these things. But she was a very, very, very unique, very remarkable lady. She was a very good person. And she followed spirit. Early on in her life, she gave her whole life over to God. And God took her on a wild, weird, wonderful journey like God has done for me. So I'm glad I did the same thing as her. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I also don't recommend it to anybody. I mean, unless it's something that you had in your life chart before you got here, don't do it. But basically, a lot of things had happened when I went to Grandma Marion's house. And if you go back to the episode from a couple months ago called Are Teddy Bears Alive? She had living teddy bears in her house. Some would growl at me, some would tell me off, some were very, very sweet. They all had a different personality. She also had a living car. A spirit inhabited her car. People would hear it speak. They'd get in the car and the car would start talking to them. And they were like, your car is talking. And she'd go, oh, yeah, I know. So this next one should not have surprised me, knowing the things that I knew about her. But one day, I had been there with my husband and my little girl, who's now my grown adult son. But I guess I was alone in the living room. My husband was taking a shower. My baby was asleep. Grandma Marion, I think, was making tea or preparing lunch. And I would have helped her, but she was very particular. She was from West Virginia, and things just had to be done a certain way. You know, she's very particular. She wanted her kitchen, everything had to be done a certain way. You know, if you open up the bread, you take out what you need and you got to close it right away. Otherwise, the bread would get dry. And you would hear about it if you didn't do it immediately. You know, so stuff like that. She was very particular. You know, she was set in her ways and she didn't want anyone to mess it up. which made me feel all kinds of guilt because I always wanted to help her make lunch and breakfast and dinner. And I wish I could just move in with her because her stories were amazing. She's a fabulous woman. And I wanted to just help her around the house because she was getting up there. But she would have nothing to do with that. And she was really spry for her age, to be honest. And she died of complications due to ibuprofen. So if you're taking ibuprofen, please stop. Please find something different. Cannabis. Oh my God, I can't talk. Cannabis oil, CBD oil, that works. There's a lot of stuff for pain that you can do naturally. Do all that first. Epsom salts in a bath works just as well, If you're not allergic to peanuts, peanut oil will take inflammation out of all of your joints and bones in like 20 minutes. So there are other things you can do than ibuprofen, and I don't recommend doing that unless it's a dire emergency. I would not take it more than once a month or once every 2 to 3 months, if at all. But anyway, she had the complications, and that's what she died from. But so this was about a good year before she died, and I was at her house, and she was in the kitchen making lunch, and I was all by myself in the living room, and I was looking around. Oh, she had about 100 teddy bears that were alive, and they're all staring at me, and I was staring at them, and it was very awkward because I don't want to start a conversation with teddy bears lest I look crazy, even though she's the one with the live teddy bears in her room. So, I don't know. That was just weird, but I started looking around the room, looking at different things, and I noticed on the far wall, and now I don't know if there was another room on the other side of that wall or if there just was not a room. It's a very weird, I didn't really pay attention if there was or wasn't a room on the other side, but I keep thinking I saw an ethereal room on the other side. And weird stuff happened in her house all the time. Her house was enchanted. She was, after all, the White Witch of West Virginia. That's what people called her when she was growing up. If she told you something's going on in your life, she was always right, 100%. She was never wrong. And I told you a few weeks ago about when she told a man in the middle of church, she stood up, she says to the preacher, "I'm sorry, sir, I've got to say this." And she turns to someone, in the listening audience. What do you call it? A congregation, sorry. What's that word? But she says, "Excuse me, your barn is on fire. You need to go now." And she told him true. In fact, a couple people in the congregation stood up and said, "She's a white witch. She knows what she's talking about. You better go. You better go now." And he got home just in time. His barn had just started on fire. The minute he got home, he was able to put it out and save his horses. So she was a white witch, and so her house was magical. It was all kinds of magical and enchanted. And she said, Alice that was her best friend. She's like, Alice has been in and out of the hospital and sick, and we're not able to do things together anymore. So she's like, I might as well enchant everything I own so I can have conversations with everything I own. So, I don't know, you've seen The Sorcerer's Apprentice with Mickey Mouse. It was kind of like that. Everything was kind of alive in her house. So, even though I knew all that, and I'd known her for a while, one day, I was sitting in the living room, looking around, and there was a portrait of a brown horse. I don't know what kind of horse. I want to say it was like maybe a quarter horse. So if I say brown, like a chestnut color, gorgeous horse. But it wasn't the best piece of art. It looked kind of someone who was learning about art.Maybe it was only like the neck and head of the horse. And there wasn't like a bunch of stuff in the background or anything. It was just like a green background, like a portrait, like you do of a person. It was a little strange, a little out of place and odd because everything in Grandma Marion's house, well, was teddy bears. Sometimes she had dolls, like girl dolls, but she mostly had teddy bears. She loved bears. And so has this one weird, odd piece of art. And I started looking at it, and the more I looked at it, the more I was drawn into it. The more I was drawn into it, the more I couldn't stop looking at it. I was like really suddenly mesmerized by this painting. And when I tried to look away from the painting, what happened was I heard a whinny. Whinny, like, whinny of a horse. And then I don't know, I can't make that sound that the horses make sometimes. And then I heard like a hoof stamping on the ground. And I'm all, and Grandma Marion's like, you okay in there? I'm all, well, yeah, except something weird is going on with your painting. Oh, I thought I heard him. He comes around sometimes. And I'm like, him? Oh, that's my horse from a past life. Okay, tell me more. I'm intrigued. She says, oh, yeah, well, I had one of the people in my congregation in California when we had our church there, George and I, that was her husband. She said one of our parishioners had a psychic mediumship ability that was really incredible. And so she would ask spirits to come to her, and she would paint their likeness, how they look like in life, and then she would bring the picture to the people in church. And it was all for free. They could donate money if they wanted, but usually she would just give her art away for free. She did it for fun and entertainment, enjoyment, and she wanted to bring happiness and love and joy to the people. And most of the pictures that she painted would be like someone's beloved dog or someone's beloved cat. Sometimes she would get a parakeet, a bird or something, and she would paint the painting and bring it to the person at church, and the people would be like, oh my gosh, how did you know? You didn't even know I had an animal like this. This is exactly the likeness of my dog. Or, my God, my little Tweety, she looked just like that. That was my bird completely. How did you know? So she was an amazing artist, but every piece of art she brought to the parishioners was of an animal that had died while in that life. And then one day, this horse came through. So she paints the horse, and she was amazed. She's like, it's the first horse she had ever painted in her life. She wasn't sure she could get it right. And for having never, ever painted a horse before, it was a remarkable painting. If it had been like her 100th painting of a horse, it was okay. But it wasn't terrible at all. It wasn't a bad piece of art. Actually, it was very nice. But you could tell that she was a little hesitant to paint it. I don't know. I know for me, I never could have painted a horse like that. So my hat's off to her. She was a good artist. But there was something about it. I don't know. And it was like an ethereal, some of the lines on the horse were blurred a little bit. That's, I think, why I thought it wasn't. I thought maybe Marion had done it in her spare time. And she's like, oh no, it was the psychic medium. And she said sometimes because they're spirits, they come through a little blurry. I'm like, so did you have a horse? Oh, yes, I did. That was from a past life, though, not this life. And she said, the minute I saw the painting, I knew it was my horse from a past life. And the horse started to talk to me, telepath to me through the painting. And so now I know anytime I'm ever sad or lonely or upset, I could go to the painting and the horse will talk to me. It's one of my friends. I'm like, like, this is really creepy. But I know it's true because I heard the, sound and the nee and the, hoof on the ground sound. Like, that is so strange. And she said, well, one time she answered her door and someone was annoying her. And it was just like too much for her to bear. She didn't want to just slam the door in their faces, but I think it might have been, I don't know if it was Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't think she would have done that to Jehovah's Witnesses, but it was someone trying to sell her something, and it was just so irritating for her. She's like, God, why did I bother opening the door? I'm trying to be friendly here, and this person's trying to waste my time and get my money. So that really just did not fly with Grandma Marion. She just thought that was so crazy and all kinds of uncouth. Like, she just really was not at all, she was having none of that. And so she kind of mentally had told her horse, can you help me? And all of a sudden the horse let out a loud whinny from the painting, so loud that the man goes, oh, you have a horse in your house? She goes, of course not, silly. It's in my backyard. But you know what? I was in the middle of getting his hay ready to feed him, so I've got to go. And it gave her an out, and she slammed the door in the guy's face and locked the door. I went back to the painting saying, oh, thank you. You saved me. You saved me. So my husband gets out of the shower, and he walks in, and he goes, what are you guys talking about? And he hears, nee! And he turns around and he goes, whoa! And he kind of jumps, and I'm like, what? And he goes, I saw a horse standing here, like the energy outline of a full grown horse. And then I looked, and it was just the painting of a horse. He's like, Marion? And she's like, yeah, it's my horse from a past life. My parishioner painted it for me, and it was a gift, and she was a psychic medium, and this is my horse. And he's like, well, what life was that? Was that a life you've told me about? I'm like, oh, this is going to get better. And she said, oh, I was a Native American, and I lived on the plains, and I wore like a leather dress that I hand sewed myself, and my moccasins that I sewed myself, and I was a really good horseback rider, better than all the other girls. And I would hop on the horse. Of course, we didn't have saddles. It was all bareback. And I would ride for hours and hours and hours and days and days and days, it felt like sometimes. She's like, it's probably only a couple hours, but I just loved my horse. He was my best friend. I woke up and I ran out to greet him in the morning, and I was with him all day long. And then at night, I would just cry sometimes because I missed him. He was my best friend. And I rode him everywhere. I took him everywhere. He was literally my lifelong companion. And I had forgotten all about him in this life until my friend and parishioner handed me this painting. And I got all of my memories flooding back to me because I looked at his face and I looked into his eyes, and she painted the eyes so real that he can follow me around the room, and I like that. I feel like he is a part of my life once more. And that's it. I mean, that's the story. But for the rest of the weekend, every now and again, we would hear, nee, so we'd have to say hi to the horse. And it became a little bit like Crazyville because, you're walking in and you're like saying hi to this teddy bear, hi to that teddy bear, hi to that painting. But her house was magical and enchanted, and there were different rules in there. There were very different rules in there. Anyway, that's my story. Now I'm sticking to it. That's all I got to say about that, guys. But right now, I'm going to sign off with peace and love and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.